Welcome to the Deep Dive. If you are a construction business owner, whether you're running a tight, highly specialized crew of 10 or you're out there managing multiple massive commercial sites, you know the struggle.
Oh yeah, the endless juggling act.
Right. You know that trying to scale your business without suffering those agonizing, keep you up at night growing pains is basically the holy grail of this industry. You're constantly balancing cash flow, managing crews, and aggressively trying to secure the next winning bid.
And doing all at the same time.
Exactly. But there is one massive $500,000 decision that sits right at the dead center of your balance sheet. And the landscape around that decision is, well, it's shifting right beneath our feet.
It really is.
Today, our mission is to unpack some truly eye-opening notes from the Scaling Legends material. We are looking at the massive 2026 shift in the construction equipment rental versus ownership debate. Our goal by the end of this conversation is to arm you with a strategic framework for your fleet so you can stop guessing and start protecting your capital.
What's fascinating here is that the old rules of the construction industry are completely, officially dead.
Totally dead.
And I'm talking specifically about those old rules driven by the pride of ownership. If you look back 20, even 10 years ago, there was a very real, tangible prestige in having your company logo slapped on the side of a massive, fully owned fleet of yellow iron sitting out in your yard.
Yeah, it was a status symbol. It meant you had made it.
Right, but we have to look at the reality of 2026. Thanks to intense new economic pressures and some really incredible technological breakthroughs that we're going to get into, making a $500,000 equipment decision based on your gut feeling, or frankly, your ego, is now a recipe for absolute disaster. The landscape has changed so fundamentally that we really have to throw out that old playbook and look strictly at the map.
And the math is just staggering. Let's start with the sheer scale of what's happening in the market right now. The U.S. construction equipment rental market alone is currently approaching $50 billion. Yeah, $50 billion with a B. Globally, the market is sitting at a massive $159.39 billion. And if you are sitting there wondering if your competitors are already figuring this out, you just have to look at the search behavior. Google Trends shows that queries for construction equipment rentals have skyrocketed 122.2% in just the last 3 months.
That is huge.
It's not some slow decade-long transition, it is a stampede. And interestingly, it is primarily being driven by mid-sized residential contractors who now hold a massive 38.47% market share of that rental demand. So my immediate question when I look at this is, why now? Why is this massive stampede happening exactly at this moment?
That stampede is happening because the underlying economics of buying new equipment have become incredibly hostile to the average contractor. We have to look at the macroeconomic factors that are actively squeezing the industry. Right now, there are 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum. Now, regardless of the politics behind those tariffs, we are strictly looking at the functional reality on the ground. And that functional reality is that these tariffs are directly inflating the manufacturing costs of new heavy machinery. The manufacturers are obviously not going to just absorb those costs out of the goodness of their hearts.
No, of course not. They are passing them directly down the line to you, the buyer.
Exactly.
I was looking at the notes on these steel tariffs, and the math blew my mind. The sources provided an incredibly concrete example to really ground this. Let's say you're looking at purchasing a standard $300,000 excavator. Because of these tariffs, we are seeing an average 8% material cost increase on the sticker price.
Ouch.
Yeah. That means that exact same machine now costs you $24,000 more out of pocket than it would have before the tariffs hit. That's $24,000 of pure cash flow evaporating before you even turn the key in the ignition.
Which is painful.
Very. When you think about what you could do with that 24 grand, that's payroll, that's marketing, that's floating materials for a new job. It really puts the squeeze into perspective.
It does. And remember, that is just the sticker price. When we look at the financing side of the equation, the squeeze gets even tighter. The cost of borrowing money has fundamentally shifted over the last few years. The monthly payment on a $500,000 loader, for example, is significantly higher today than it was back in 2021.
Because of the rates.
Right. The interest rates are making both traditional equipment loans and long-term leases far more expensive. Contractors are looking at these compounded costs. The inflated sticker price combined with the higher interest rates over a 5 or 7 year term, and realizing the math simply doesn't work for their margins anymore. Based on Smart Business Automator's market intelligence report, contractors are actively pivoting away from purchasing and toward rentals specifically to protect their liquid cash flow.
Which makes perfect sense.
They desperately need that capital to float payroll, secure materials, and bid on new jobs, rather than locking it up in hundreds of thousands of pounds of depreciating steel.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because reading through this material, I realized it's not just that buying got harder, it's that renting got phenomenally better. If you pay any attention to the showcases at ConExpo 2026, you saw an absolute technological leap. We are talking about a full-blown telematics revolution that is changing the very nature of how a rental fleet operates on a Tuesday morning at a busy job site.
Absolutely.
But for someone who might just be hearing that buzzword, how do we unpack what telematics actually means for the guy in the dirt?
It is a great question because it sounds like jargon, but it is actually highly practical. Telematics is basically just the machine's ability to track and transmit its own internal data back to you in real time. And this technological integration is truly night and day compared to even 5 years ago. Well, historically, renting equipment meant you were flying blind. You rented a dozer, it showed up on a trailer, and that was it. You didn't know the exact internal condition of the machine, you didn't know its true fuel efficiency, and you certainly didn't know when it might blow a hydraulic line and break down on your site.
Yeah, you just crossed your fingers.
Right. But now, the telematics revolution has introduced comprehensive GPS tracking, real-time utilization monitoring, fuel efficiency tracking, and predictive maintenance alerts. The Internet of Things has turned these dumb pieces of metal into highly communicative smart devices. For a contractor managing a complex site, this makes integrating rental equipment into your workflow vastly easier and far more transparent.
And the artificial intelligence component is what really caught my attention. At ConExpo, Caterpillar demonstrated their Cat AI assistant. This isn't just a gimmick or a fancy dashboard, it is AI-powered fleet management, specifically designed to reduce the complexity for contractors who are running mixed fleets. And by mixed fleets, we mean a mix of equipment you own outright and equipment you are actively renting. This AI tracks everything seamlessly, telling you exactly how your machines are performing, regardless of whose name is actually on the title. It just unifies the entire operation.
It does, and that specific technology enables what I think is the most massive industry shift we've seen in the last decade, which is the way rental companies are handling maintenance.
Oh, this is huge.
Because these modern machines can now actually predict their own breakdowns and schedule their own service via telematics. Rental companies are offering comprehensive maintenance-included packages. Think about what that means. They monitor the machine from their headquarters, they see an engine running hot, they send the mechanic out to your site in a branded truck, and they handle the repairs.
Sometimes before your operator even knows there is a problem.
Exactly. This effectively neutralizes one of the biggest historical advantages of owning your own iron. In the past, owning meant you controlled the maintenance schedule, you weren't at the mercy of someone else. Now, renting removes the massive burden of mechanic labor, part sourcing, and service downtime completely off your plate.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to play devil's advocate for a minute. The monthly payment of a rental versus the monthly payment of a loan is only the tip of the iceberg. I want to challenge you, the listener, to look past that surface level math and examine the hidden costs on both sides of the fence. Because renting isn't some magical cost-free utopia. There are very real hidden costs to renting that can eat you alive if you aren't managing them right.
Oh, for sure.
You have mobilization and demobilization fees, the painful cost of paying someone to physically truck that rented equipment 100 miles to your job site and back for a 2-day job. You have expensive damage waivers. You have overtime rates if you run the machine past the allotted hours in your contract. And perhaps the most terrifying hidden cost, the very real risk of availability during peak construction season.
The summer rush.
Yeah. What happens in mid-July when every contractor in the tri-state area needs a boom lift? If you don't own it and the rental yard is empty, your entire project timeline just grinds to a halt.
That is an incredibly valid pushback, and those are the exact risks that keep project managers awake at night. Availability is the great equalizer. But if we are going to look at the hidden costs of renting, we have to be equally honest about the quiet cash killers of ownership.
Fair point.
Beyond that hefty monthly loan payment, you are dealing with insurance premiums, which are spiking 15 to 20% in many regional markets right now, just to cover heavy equipment. Then you have the physical cost of storage space. Yard real estate to park these machines is not cheap.
Definitely not.
You have the massive payroll burden of retaining full-time maintenance staff and mechanics, plus their benefits. You have the unrecoverable cost of downtime when your own machine breaks, and you have to wait 3 weeks for a proprietary part to ship from overseas. And of course, you have massive depreciation. The moment that shiny new dozer rolls off the dealer lot, its value plummets, but your loan principal does not.
Right, so you are bleeding cash in ways that don't always show up neatly on a single line item. It's a slow leak.
Exactly. Which brings us to the most crucial metric you must internalize to navigate these hidden costs on both sides. There's a golden rule here, and it all comes down to utilization. According to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report, the magic number is the 60 to 65% utilization threshold.
60 to 65%.
Yes. Simply put, if a piece of equipment is actively being used for less than 60 to 65% of its available working time throughout the year, renting is almost always the cheaper, more financially sound option. If it sits idle in your yard or even idle on a job site for more than a third of the year, it is a money pit, plain and simple.
And that exposes the fatal flaw for so many businesses. I mean, let's be honest, most mid-sized contractors don't even track their equipment utilization at that level of detail. They might have a gut feeling that they use the skid steer a lot, but they don't actually know if a lot means 40% of the time or 80% of the time.
Right, they just go by feel.
Because they are flying blind without this data, they are wasting precious capital buying assets that end up just sitting in the dirt, gathering dust, rusting away their profit margins.
It is entirely an opportunity cost issue. Let's frame it like this. When you buy a machine that only hits 40% utilization, you have tied up hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital. That is capital that could have been deployed to fund an entirely new crew, secure the materials for another highly lucrative project, or open up a completely new revenue stream for the business.
Yeah.
The opportunity cost of idle equipment is one of the quietest, most insidious ways a construction business chokes its own growth. You are literally parking your growth potential in the mud.
So what does this all mean for you and your business tomorrow morning? We've talked about the massive $50 billion market shift, the new telematics that make renting viable, and this critical 60 to 65% utilization threshold. How do we take all of that and turn it into an actionable playbook?
The winning playbook for 2026 is what industry leaders are calling the hybrid strategy.
The hybrid strategy.
Yes. The most profitable contractors are no longer absolutists. They don't fiercely insist on renting everything, and they certainly don't let their ego dictate that they must own everything. Instead, the strategy is very precise. Own your core fleet and rent your peak or specialty equipment.
Makes sense.
Your core fleet consists of the machines you use daily on every single project year-round. These are the workhorses. These are the assets that easily, undeniably clear that 65% utilization hurdle. Everything else, the machines you only need for specific phases of a build, the extra scissor lifts you need during the summer rush, the highly specialized trenchers you use twice a year, you rent those.
But to actually pull off this hybrid strategy effectively, you have to replace your gut feelings with hard numbers. You need to benchmark your success. And this is where relying on Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report becomes so vital, because it actively tracks equipment utilization benchmarks by specific trades and regions. It allows you, as a contractor, to look at actual market data, to identify exactly which machines in your specific line of work are historical profit centers and which ones are guaranteed money pits. You calculate your true cost per hour using real numbers, not guesswork. You stop relying on the fact that you feel like you use the excavator a lot, and you start looking at a dashboard that tells you exactly how many hours the engine was running.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, adopting this data-driven mindset for your heavy equipment is really just the first step in scaling your business intelligently. The companies that are truly thriving right now are applying this exact same level of technological leverage to their entire operation.
Yeah, moving beyond just the iron.
Right. Modern AI platforms are fundamentally changing how construction teams operate in the office and in the trailer. They are helping businesses scale rapidly without letting their teams drown in administrative paperwork. Because if you are using advanced AI to track whether your bulldozer is profitable, you absolutely should be applying that same technology to optimize your project manager's time.
It is wild how much time gets eaten up by admin in this industry. I mean, we've all seen it. A highly paid, highly experienced project manager spends 4 hours digging through old email threads and mismatched blueprints just to answer a simple question from a sub.
It happens every day.
A project manager should be managing the project, walking the site, identifying hazards, not fighting with spreadsheets and digital folders all day.
Precisely. And that is where the pivot happens.
Yeah.
These modern AI platforms are completely automating the tedious stuff. We're talking about systems that automatically generate daily log summaries and meeting recaps by pulling data directly from the field. They intelligently tag and sort project photos, plans, and permits so you aren't clicking through endless, disorganized digital folders.
Which is a lifesaver.
And taking it a step further, they can even extract crucial details from complex architectural specs. If you have an RFI, or request for information, where there is a discrepancy in the plans, the AI can generate draft RFI responses based on historical project data in seconds. It can detect early schedule risks by comparing current progress against the baseline, and it catches budget variances before they become catastrophic.
Wow.
By automating all of this manual coordination and reporting, your project managers can suddenly handle significantly more jobs with far less stress. It is all about doing more with the exact same resources you already have.
Which brings us right back to where we started today, scaling without the growing pains, protecting your margins. Let's summarize the core takeaways here so you can bring this actionable advice back to your team.
Good idea.
First, the 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum are pushing purchase prices through the roof, and those high interest rates are making the financing incredibly painful. Second, the telematics revolution and AI are making rental equipment smarter, more transparent, and easier to manage than ever before, with the added massive bonus of maintenance often being fully included. And third, you absolutely must track your utilization. That 60 to 65% utilization threshold is your ultimate North Star. By adopting the hybrid strategy, owning your daily core, and renting your seasonal peak, you actively protect your cash flow. Remember, every single dollar tied up in an idle excavator sitting in your yard is a dollar you can't use to hire another crew, launch a marketing campaign, or win another massive bid.
This raises an important, perhaps even provocative question for the future of the industry. As artificial intelligence and telematics get increasingly perfect at predicting project timelines, identifying exact equipment needs before the project even breaks ground, and forecasting availability down to the minute.
Wait, forecasting availability perfectly? Could we see a future where the concept of owning even your core equipment becomes completely obsolete?
Obsolete.
Think about it. If the logistics become utterly flawless and the AI knows exactly when you need a machine and ensures it is there waiting for you, we might be looking at the entire construction industry transitioning into a fully on-demand equipment as a service model within our lifetimes. Think of it almost like Uber for heavy iron. It is something every forward-thinking business owner should be mulling over as they plan for the next decade of growth. That is a wild thought, an equipment as a service model that would fundamentally change everything about how a balance sheet looks in construction. Definitely something to keep an eye on as the tech continues to evolve at this breakneck pace. All right, that wraps up today's deep dive into the changing landscape of heavy equipment and smart scaling. Now it is time for you to take action. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure you subscribe to Scaling Legends on your preferred platform so you never miss an update.
And leave a rating.
Yes, please leave a rating and review. It really helps other contractors find the show and build smarter businesses. Share this deep dive with your team, your project managers, or those colleagues in the industry who are still buying $500,000 equipment on pure gut instinct. And to learn more about how to scale your business without drowning in paperwork, visit smartbusinessautomator.com. Keep building, keep scaling, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.